Now I'm at a point where for me personally, it just makes sense to buy used cars these days because every single new car that comes out is just so generic. Everything looks exactly the same, and I don't. In 80% of the design changes that are made, I don't like the new designs that are coming out right now. They just look vulgar to me, and that goes for the new Audi, the A5 and the S5. There's no more Audi A4, so what we're gonna do in this video is, you know what you're gonna do. We're gonna have a look at this design for front, side, and rear, and also the interior. And I said this, I can't remember what Audi video it was a new EV, and I said I hope they don't implement these big screens into the normal internal combustion engine versions of Audi, but I wasn't that hopeful, and now we do have, again, massive screens on the interior. I don't know what's going on with car interiors these days. Before we go any further and talk about this new Audi, I want to take a minute to thank today's sponsor, Lasfit floor mats. Lasfit floor mats are custom made using 3D scanning that measures the dimensions of your car to ensure a perfect fit. The mats remains flexible in all weathers and don't get stiff when temperatures drop below zero. They're also very easy to rinse off, whether they're covered in snow, slush, sand, or mud, which is great if you're like me and like to hike trails. Inevitably, you're gonna bring some of that dirt back into the car. The Lasfit floor mats are made from 100% TPE material, which makes them elastic and durable. They have some sponginess to them to increase comfort when you have your feet on them, and in addition to that, you get great friction from the TPE material even when wet. And on the bottom side of these liners, you also have groove design to create friction on the bottom as well, so the mats won't slide around inside the car once installed. So go to lasfit.com to order yours and make sure you use code TKRM15 for 15% off your order. Thanks to Lasfit for sponsoring this video. So before we jump into Photoshop, let's have a look at this article from Car and Driver. I'm gonna link it down in the description. So the Audi A4 is dead. Long live the A5 and the S5 that replace it. The 2025 A5 and S5 will be the first models to ride on the new platform that Audi is calling Premium Platform Combustion, or PPC. There will also be an Avant wagon model, but since we don't get wagons here, this is not coming to the United States. It would be cool to have an Audi wagon here, internal combustion engine wagon, specifically an RS5 wagon, to bring over the M3 competition wagon as well, touring as well here. In Audi's new nomenclature, I'm not sure, I've never heard that word before, even numbers are battery electric models and odd numbers indicate internal combustion engines. But the A4 is out and replaced by the new A5, and the new A5 is a hatchback, or what Audi used to call a sportback, but they still calling it the A5 sedan. So we're switching up the core definitions of car packaging when it comes to naming. At least Audi is doing that. This is a hatchback, it's not a sedan, but I can kind of see why they would call it the sedan when it looks at the proportion, because we still have the 3-box design here, built on what Audi says will be its last new internal combustion platform. Don't think that's going to happen. I do think they're going to keep making internal combustion engines when they see the demand for that is still very, very high. And another thing with new cars, they just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and that is the case with the new A5. The body is 2.6 inches longer, half an inch wider, and 0.6 inches taller. The wheelbase is also stretched by 3.1 inches. That is not a small change in length for the wheelbase. I wonder how that is going to affect the turning radius. Maybe they have a rear wheel steering on here. US bound A5s will offer a choice of 2 engines. You have the A5 that gets the 268 horsepower 2-liter turbo, 4-cylinder with Audi's first use of a variable turbine turbocharger. Moving up to the S5, you get a 3-liter twin-turbo V6 with 362 horsepower. The power number sounds pretty good here. There is no manual though, which is pretty sad. You don't even get a manual in Europe anymore. The front suspension and steering mounts are claimed to be stiffer, and a torque vectoring rear differential will also be offered. Now, looking at this interior here, the interior is dominated by a massive curved glass panel on the dashboard that Audi calls the digital stage. Digital stage. Can we have an analog stage? Can we bring that back maybe? Directly in front of the driver is an 11.9-inch gauge cluster and infotainment cluster. Doesn't stop there. Gone is the ability to select which types of gauges you prefer. So this is also something that is very, very strange. They removed any sort of physical interaction in the gauge cluster. They made everything 100% digital, but they removed the customizing, the way of customizing how you want the gauges to look. What is the point of having everything be pixelated? Audi had the best interiors up until 2025, up until this model right here. They had the best interiors for the previous RS5s and the A4s and the A3s as well. The entire lineup was great, but it doesn't stop there. The center touchscreen housed in a curved panel, even larger. It's 14.5 inches, containing vehicle settings, climate controls, the audio system, and the navigation as well. But we're not done yet. So to the right of the digital stage display is an optional 10.9-inch rectangular screen awkwardly placed ahead of the passenger. So we have huge digital screen for the gauge cluster, huge screen for the infotainment screen, but they couldn't just let the passenger be alone. They also need pixels, smashed in their face. So that's what they're getting with this 10.9-inch rectangular screen. It's cast onto an awkward windshield. Ahead of the driver is a large head-up display. So on top of these three screens, you also get a head-up display. Fantastic. Now, US models come standard with all-wheel drive. The face of the A5 is defined by a large grille opening. It's actually smaller than it used to be in the previous one. And the daytime run lights perched ahead of the hood. Each DRL cluster can be configured in several patterns. You can also do that with the tail lights outside of the US, because US law don't allow for changeable tail lights. The good news here, the good news with this design is that we don't have bumper headlights. I thought we were going to get a slit of LED up top and then bumper headlights down low in the bottom of the bumper underneath, with separated by a piece of body work. But in this case, we actually have the daytime run lights and the headlights in one single housing, and it looks so refreshing to see this coming back into Audis. So with that said, let's jump into Photoshop here. And if the camera shakes, there's a kitten right behind the camera on the cat tower there playing with it, and the camera is right there. So if it starts to shake, you know what's going on back there. So here we have the old S5 on the left, and we have the new S5 on the right side here. So let's have a look at what's actually new here with this design. Honestly, when I first saw this car, I thought it was a pretty, conservative change. But the changes that are made, again, it's not better. It's not for the improvement of the design. This is obviously the new one here. We do have the big single frame grille in the old S5 here, looking great. I love this color as well, looking very clean and nice. Love these little three slots here, bringing back the Ur Quattro design of the rally car, but just bringing that back, a little bit of a homage to that car. Looking at the new one here, the biggest change is going to be in the lower corners, and also the grille is now squished a little bit, so they pushed the grille up here in the lower section, looking at the old one, which went all the way down here. And this is probably the first time I think the bigger grille look better than the new one, because this doesn't feel, it just doesn't have a natural flow to it. And then we also, in addition to that, we also get these two parallel lines at the bottom, creating more of a static feel here. There is no dynamic movement in these two lines, just two single lines in the same height, parallel, creating very static feel. But the good news here, as I said, we do have the headlights intact in one single housing. So we have the DRLs up here, configurable, different patterns. I do think that's a pretty cool idea. I mean, you can choose whatever expression you want your Audi to have, I guess. And then you have the main headlights being located down here. So that is very, very cool. Now, these areas here on BMWs and now Audi as well, I'm not sure why the corner intakes needs to be this massive. What this creates, if you look at the old one here, we do have these beautiful chamfers here underneath the headlight. Look at this. We have a nice chamfer up top here as well for this beautiful intake on the side. And this height, how far this stretches up, feels way more natural than what we have now, and also a lot more squared, stretched out horizontally instead of dragging it out vertically. What this does now is, if we look at the new one, how this squishes this area of metal or of bodywork. It feels like this is way too thin. This area stretches way too far up, creating this channel here, if you want to call it that. It feels like it's too tight. I want to give this some room to breathe, and I'm gonna make a redesign of this on the Sketch Monkey channel, just to show you exactly what it is, what I'm talking about here. So looking at the side view, but let's finish up the front view here. Overall, the front view is not too bad. It's honestly not too bad. This entire refresh is not horrible. I kind of like, I guess, for today's standards, what they did here with the changes for the exterior design. Now looking at the old side view here, beautifully done. This is the 4-door Sportback S5 that we have here. It also came in the 2-door, which is probably the one I would prefer to have because it just gives it a little more sporty proportions. Love the wheel design, and also this cut here that houses all the graphics in the rear end looks beautiful. Looking at the new one here, I definitely prefer the old 5-spoke designs. These are not bad looking wheels, but it's just a matter of taste. But here you can see just how far up this black frame, and also the frame is also very, very thick, how far that sticks up in a side view, and just creating this very tight area here that feels way too tight. But the shoulder line looks absolutely stunning because it connects here. If we drag a line back here, you can see that it goes straight into the shoulder. Then you have, it looks like we have another sharp shoulder line up here, and the smooth line down here, creating a nice muscle in this area for the new Audi. And also this line at the bottom, beautifully done, having this connection from the lower section in the middle, cutting right into a properly defined bumper in the rear. So the side view is probably my favorite view for the new S5, looking very, very cool. Now looking at the rear end here, they went with the trend. They went with so many trends on this car. Now look at this. This is actually the RS5, my mistake. So this is the RS5, as you can see here, because I noticed we have two big dual bazooka tailpipes instead of quad tailpipes. Now looking at the rear end here, what I love about the old one, made a review on this in person, and I talked about this there as well, this framing of the rear end graphics and how it confidently cuts off down here, creating this beautiful bumper right here, which separates the top half of the graphics from the lower half. Beautifully integrated diffuser here as well, not too aggressive. It doesn't stick up all the way up here like some cars do today. It feels classy, it feels elegant, even though it is a high performance model. Now looking at the new one here, yes, we do have, look at this, we do have a full LED light bar. Same type of philosophy Mercedes is going, where you have this curvature on the top part becoming a lot more organic and just swinging like this, creating the thick piece here and then getting thinner in the middle. Look very Mercedes-like to me, this rear end, but thankfully we still have this gorgeous ducktail up top, and we also have, as I said in the side view, this separation bumper, and then we have the diffuser down here. Still doesn't stick up way too far. I can't wait to see the RS5 model, how that is going to look like. I do think that's going to have better looking wheels as well. Again, these are not bad looking wheels, but I just prefer the more sporty ones. But here you can see this is the S5 because we have quad tailpipes. That was the same situation on the old S5 as well, and that's how you can differentiate the RS5 from the S5 in the rear end. Last but definitely not least, look at this interior here and tell me which one, if you are going on a road trip, you're driving from, let's say you're driving from here, from Colorado to, where are you going? You're going down to, I'm going back to Florida, let's say that. Which of these interiors would you like to sit in and just relax for that long of a drive, 1,500 miles or something like that? You know what I'm gonna pick? 100% this one, because this is a classic, beautiful looking interior in a modernized way. We have the housing for the gauge cluster. I've made so many reviews of these cars in person as well, and I always talk about how much I love this unfortunately the past generation of Audi's interiors. And we have tactile dials for the climate control settings, a lot of buttons here, and a small little screen up here that definitely does not feel well integrated. In this case, it feels like just an afterthought, but that's totally fine. First of all, I don't need a bigger screen than this. And if we're gonna have a screen, I don't mind that they just stuck it on here just to be part of the, you know, screen gang these days. And then we have this beautiful carbon fiber down here with more buttons in the lower section. Now look at the new one here. What's going on? What happened, Audi? Why do we have to do this to every single car? Why do we have to remove every single design feature and just slap a big, like a cinematic widescreen TV on the dash? It just removes everything that's so warm and welcoming about the interior. You know, I don't know what else I can say about this that I haven't said already, but as you can tell, I'm not a huge fan of this interior design at all. Not a huge fan of the steering wheel either. The steering wheel looks decent, but I, again, prefer the round original steering wheel like this with the Audi logo housed and framed within this chrome or silver ring. And then we have this passenger screen, 10.3 inches, I do believe, sitting here just for the passenger to be entertained. I feel like the attention span since social media has gone down so low. Like, it's less than a goldfish of 5 seconds these days. So I feel like car companies, maybe they think that passengers, drivers, they need to have things just to stimulate the brain at all times. But when I go for a drive, I want the complete opposite. I sit in front of the computer every day. We have all these social media accounts. So when I go for a drive, having screens shining pixels in my face, that's the last thing I want if I'm gonna go for a relaxing drive. I just want it to be me and the car, the mechanical pieces of the car, nice, beautiful, handcrafted dial. Maybe not handcrafted if I'm not driving an old Bentley or something like that. But you know what I'm saying, analog, physical pieces, and I don't want these type of interiors. Then we have, again, Audi being a specialty, this gloss black all over the place. Definitely not an upgrade when it comes to the interior design, in my opinion. The exterior design looks decent, but still not better than the old one. I would want to go back to the 2011. I do believe it was 2011 when the first generation RS5 Coupe came out. I could be wrong on that. That is by far the most clean, the Walter da Silva design. That is my all-time favorite RS5, and I don't think Audi is ever going to beat that specific car when it comes to the S5s and the RS5s.